Good evening and welcome to Falmouth Community Media Center and our second open mic night, Poetic License. My name is Deborah Rogers and I'm the CEO. Before we get started, I just want to point out our emergency exits. There's a door directly behind you, there's one out to your right, and there are two doors directly behind me. There's a restroom to your right, and out the back door, if you go down the hall to the right and turn right again, there's another restroom. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Falmouth Community Television. We are a nonprofit 501c3 public charity and a membership-based organization. We manage the 3 local cable channels here in Falmouth, Public Channel 13, Education Channel 14, and Government Channel 15. We provide training in video production and technology as a means of encouraging community dialogue, awareness, and expression. Programs can also be viewed live on our website, and they are also available on demand. I welcome you to tour our fabulous new facility at the end of the evening and consider joining as a member, attending one of our many classes that we offer, or our monthly orientation where you can learn more about us. And now for our show. Our hostess for Poetic License is Alice Kachemba. Alice is an award-winning poet and the founding director of Calliope, Poetry for Community. In addition to publishing her poems in numerous literary journals and in her book, Born Bridge and Death of T-Ticket Hardware, Alice was honored to be the first and only winner of the Bad Poetry Festival contest at the Mass Poetry Festival. And if encouraged, she may read her prize-winning bad poem tonight. We are grateful to Alice for working with our staff to plan and host these open mic events, and of course, all of you for joining us and those who are participating. Please do mark your calendars for our next Poetic License on Thursday, October 24th, and please join me in welcoming to the stage Alice Kachemba.
Thanks, Debbie. And it's so good to see so many people. We thought maybe in the rain, maybe people wouldn't be coming, but we're actually growing our audience for poetry. And last month, at least my experience was, it was really a sense of community here, that you listen to people, and I told Terez that I ran into her at the Stop and Shop, and she heard about this, and I said, how great is that the word is getting out, and you know, we are a community, so these 5-minute slots are really to be inclusive. For those people who, you know, didn't came sort of on time, and the open mic slots were full, please come next month because we're going to make you a priority. Everybody has a voice. Everybody gets a chance. And I also just wanted to tell anybody who comes up, I'm going to read first. Rich Humans, who you know is some of you know is my husband, is going to read last. And in the middle, we have 25 people, so we're going to keep it moving. There won't be an intermission like last month, and we really hope you stay for the whole event, if possible. The other thing I just wanted to say is, as Debbie said, get comfortable with the microphone, and I'm going to read your name, but I will probably mispronounce it. So before you start, take a deep breath and say your name, and then read or perform what you're here to do. And now I'm going to read, wait 1 second. If you want me to, I will read the prize-winning bad poem first. Some of you know that I was very active in Mass Poetry Festival in Salem, and Steve Amond, who's a humorist, decided, you know, we take our work seriously, but we shouldn't take ourselves seriously, and he put out a call for bad poems, of which I have many. But this one, which I wrote actually as though it were a lyric of a country western song, won. And then he told the whole audience why it was so bad. But I enjoy it, and I think there might be some musicians in the room, so if you really want to put it to music, I don't mind at all. If I had known, if I had known that sad lament, too late regret about the others, the et al. Of lovers, as I do now, would I have breathed, absorbed your soul, tasted longing, that brief belonging? Then you leave, taking the heart of me, and I become one of the et al. Of lovers. I exposed that ancient need to be known, completely seen, to feel loved, finally fully loved. If I had known, as I do now, I don't exist except to foil another's need to be known by you alone. How do I grieve the death of me, my soul stolen, my heart deceived, seduced by the fantasy of you pretending to be in love with me? Such soulless hypocrisy, if I had known as I do now. Thank you. And just so you know, the whole Mass Poetry Festival, which was a 3-day event, people kept coming up to me either saying congratulations, or my favorite comment was, when you wrote it, did you know it was bad? And I said, sort of like a cat with a hairball. You know it's bad, but you just got to get it up and out. I know. All right, so there's no way I can switch to a 9/11 poem after that, so maybe next month I'll do it. I'm going to read another, just 2 poems. One is Self-Portrait. This is hopefully a better way of introducing myself. I have a history of quitting. It started at Miss Dolan's dance studio. I failed shuffle, ball, change, developed a Shirley Temple phobia. Then I quit piano after I botched traffic cop at the recital. I like long walks in old cemeteries. In a drizzle of grace, stones vibrate. I prefer winter to spring, its absence of songbirds. Human nature's my fascination. I'm repelled by frogs, bees, snakes, wonder if phlox is a disease or a breed of deadly spider. Even the forests oppress me. I'm fond of cobblestone clotted streets, but love the music of wind and water. I choose fog over sun. I crave dreamless sleep when the Ferris wheel of vision thought stops. I think too much anyway. It took me years to read again after the injury. I wish I could love again. I'd start with the planet, try to recycle. And I'm going to just end with I'm working on a whole series of poems that all are about thank you. She said, hoping to find it. And this references the Stop and Shop, where you do run into everybody in the world at the Stop and Shop. And this is really for the tourists. I wrote it in June on the shoulder season, and now we're in another shoulder season. So you can just change the fruit or the vegetable at the end. Thank you for the quiet of the shoulder season, before the switch is flipped to the hubbub of summer, before dogs are banished from the beach and the line to park at Old Silver is a sizzling hot dog, for courtesy of locals who let you take a left turn into the Stop and Shop, where you run into your neighbor in the produce aisle, and she reminds you it's better to pick your own strawberries at Tony Andrews' farm because they taste like strawberries. And you commiserate together that these frenetic, sunburned lobsters really need a vacation. So the other thing I just want to say is I'm going to read your name, but when you come up, could you please say your name? And if there's any setup you want to do to your poem so that the audience can understand where you're coming from, that's fine too, but try to keep to the 5 minutes. So the first reader is, or performer is, Rose Mahaber? Rose? All right, Rose, please come up and welcome her.
Hi, I'm going to sing and perform a song that I wrote myself on my computer, so hence the speaker, because I cannot play guitar very well. And when I saw acoustic solo, I emailed Andrew, and he said that I could bring a speaker, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hook it up, and it should only take a second. I thought it would be nice to just sing one of my own songs because I've never performed one of my own songs in public before. Hard to deal with, but I can feel it in my bones. Better seal it with a kiss. Tell me I'm your only lover. There's no other, got each other's just to stay together like forever, nothing better. Hey, from the moment that I saw you, it's cliche, but I'm telling you, I just knew without you, what would I do? There's nobody else like you. Hey, I'll be your secret weapon, I got your back. No matter what happens, only attack. And if you wanna give me love, I'll take that. Just tell me you'll be loyal, loyal, loyal. You can be my man, my soldier, taking the lead. And as the night grows colder, sing me to sleep. And as the look in your eyes takes over me, just tell me you'll be loyal, loyal, loyal. Hard to realize, but no surprise that I fell. I tried to hide it, you could tell. Tell me I'm your only lover. There's no other, got each other's just to stay together like forever, nothing better. Hey, from the moment that our eyes met, it's cliche, but I fell for you just like that. Without you, what would I do? There's nobody else like you. Hey, I'll be your secret weapon, I got your back. No matter what happens, only attack. And if you wanna give me love, I'll take that. Just tell me you'll be loyal, loyal, loyal. You can be my man, my soldier, taking the lead. And as the night grows colder, sing me to sleep. And as I look in your eyes takes over me, just tell me you'll be loyal, loyal, loyal. I'll be the one, you can be my only. We're love, never lonely. Like this reminds you, so we stay like this, stay loyal, honey. This took me down like nothing else. Independent, wanna be myself. I'm a little odd, babe, can you tell? But I don't want me to be anybody else. Be the one, you could be my only. We're love, never lonely. Like this reminds you, so we stay like this, stay loyal, honey. Take me down like nothing else. Independent, wanna be myself. I'm a little odd, babe, can you tell? But you don't want me to be anybody else. Thank you.
That was wonderful. And always, it's hard to go after a musician, but I think we have the perfect person to go after the musician. It's Donna Shira. Donna.
But to me, poetry is about stories. It's about storytelling in images. And, sometimes I think, well, maybe I should also be writing songs because that's poems put to music, so.
Well, good evening, dear ones. I had a near-death experience 10 years ago, and when I came to, I was so delighted to still be alive. And so that feeling lasted for a long time, and I said, you know what? For the rest of my life, I want to wake up every morning and be grateful. And so anyway, I do toast every morning with a green martini glass full of ice water. And I toast the day and I say, thank you, divine being who has given me this beautiful life. This one's called Breakfast Gratitude. Thank you to the chicken who bobbed and weaved, scritched and pecked, free to range about the barnyard for her breakfast. My thanks to the sun, the rain, the air, the soil which grew the seeds to feed my hungry chicken, who went on to thrive and master the laying of this egg. Thanks to the farmer, brown and brawny, his wife who birthed a small child, and thanks, winsome child, who rose from her sleepy nest, trailing a patchwork quilted dream, to grope under the chicken's feathery rump and snag that still warm egg. Thanks to the supermarket, the cardboard carton, the fluorescent lights, the humming chill of protection, the cart, the wallet, the woman at the checkout counter who smiled and gently moved my egg to yet another brown papery nesting place. Thanks for the stovetop range with its lopsided burner, the pan, the spatula, spatter of bacon grease, and the aroma which flooded my sponge of a tongue with anticipatory water. Thanks to the plate, the knife and fork, the table and chair, the teeth that chew, the throat that swallows, the body that accepts this petit déjeuner. Then, lifting the dregs, smeared yellow with yolk, surrounded by dappled puddles of pig juice, I nestle the plate softly to the floor. I am thankful for my little brown and white dog, who blesses my hand with a lick and a wag, then bends in gratitude to his small sunrise sacrament. Thank you. And my dog's name is Bugsy. This next one I just finished writing. This month is the 7th anniversary of my mom's passing. And it's taken me 7 years to be able to write about her. So this is the first one I wrote. It's called Eliding the Truth. Eliding is obscuring or obstructing the truth. Mother, the one we knew so little, so well. My sister and I spent the early morning hours of her death in idle talk, mental crawl on hands and knees towards one another, grinding those well-tread paths between each synapse, attempting to close the gaps, mostly unable to connect. Mother loved to tell stories, making them up along the way, tearing random pages from novels and magazines, semi-truth concocted from more dramatic lives. On my 16th Christmas, a box hung on the tree. It contained a weather cross on a chain. She hung the story around my neck. Her mother, she said, had passed along this cross on her 16th birthday under Great Depression circumstances. The gift was a tangible treasure, a tie chaining me to our history. In turn, I passed the glittering tradition to my daughter. Mentioning the ritual to my mother, she denied the truth of it and accused me of deception. What is truth? One truth is she was dying. Between endless sighs, her morphine-muffled truth that night became a circular mantra. It was so hard. I tried my best. Despite years of neglect and judgment, we hastened to agree with her. It had been hard. She certainly did try. Understanding her background, which featured an outhouse behind a tar paper shack filled with incest at the hand of her drunken father, and a lifetime striving to climb out of that shack. We forgave her everything. The truth? We are all trying our best, wandering this wind-swept world, hoping we will somehow get something right. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. And I'll just say that Andrew and I are keeping track of time. So we have a full open mic, and at the very end, not only will Rich end, but before he reads, I'll make sure that we didn't, miss somebody who I could do that. So our next, I always say performer because I can't read enough to know whether they're a poet, but I believe this is the other Alice here. Alice Batchelder is our next reader. Please welcome Alice.
I always thought I was the only Alice in the world. I have some poems that are about Falmouth. Did she ever get parked? Westbound on Main, I'm passing by, when on the eastbound side I spy a precious empty parking space. To score it, I will have to race. I manage to reverse my course and try to get back to the source, but someone looks delighted there, and they have now alighted there. We eastbound drivers slip on past. Another space appears at last. It must be mine. I pray, I pant, but curses, there's a fire hydrant. Reverse again, and so it goes, my summer Main Street parking woes. I'll travel Main Street through the day like Charlie on the MTA. This one is in praise of Succonesset, and I expect you all know that that's the Wampanoag name for Falmouth. The people of St. Louis, San Francisco, and Detroit have nothing on Magansett, Sippawisset, and Waquoit. The native people hereabout were really quite adroit at naming many places in the land of Massasoit. Before the Pilgrim Fathers settled Massachusetts Bay, the Wampanoag gave names to ancient trails and waterways. The names that were bequeathed to us remain with us today, and visitors proclaim that they're impossible to say. But nonetheless, we made them ours, although it seems unfair. We love them even when they sound a little like a swear. I've spluttered "Acapesket" in a moment of despair, and I've whisted "Menant" in the spirit of a prayer. You who live now here in Falmouth or in any Cape Cod place, in fact throughout New England and across our nation's face, remember those who came before and value every trace of special names they left us, and hold them in your embrace. I was going to cut one out, but I think I'll do it. Road work. Queued for traffic lights at Jones, drivers curse in angry tones, slowed up by construction zones, yellow vests, and orange cones. At the turn for Falmouth Heights, there's no chance for taking rights. Why so many roadwork sites? Can't they minimize our plights? Getting to the Canty Center, it is difficult to enter. Trenches bridged, but risks a denter. Roadwork is a cruel tormentor. I don't always rhyme, but I picked all ones that rhyme. What snowbirds miss? We opened up our draperies amid the morning chill and found some frosted art, Bargello peaked above the sill. We put on extra layers to go out about our day and made our way on foot toward our favorite cafe. We trudged along beside the berms, scraped up by passing plows, and had to duck our heads beneath some puffy, snow-clad boughs. We dodged a doggy water dish iced firm with frozen leaves and watched as geese passed overhead in ragged, honking V's. We had a cozy breakfast among townfolk of all sorts, including one in out-of-season brave Bermuda shorts. A glance outside the window showed a small white postal van. Our breakfast time companion was a U.S. postal man. We do not envy neighbors who flew off to sunny climes. They never see these hometown scenes of vivid winter times. It's they who should be envious of what we enjoy here. I heartily invite them to remain throughout the year. One more quickie. This is called Debris, and it's dedicated to Shirley Faytoot. She's active in the AARP, and she's the promoter of Falmouth's anti-litter efforts, with apologies to Joyce Kilmer. I think that I will never see a sight as ugly as debris. Debris you brought here from afar, then blithely flipped out of your car. Debris of wrappers that you ripped and whiskey bottles that you sipped. With sanitizer on your hands, you tossed that bottle in the sands. Did you feel clean after you flossed? How dirty that your tool you tossed. Pickup is done by fools like me, but only you can make debris.
That was so charming, and it was exactly 5 minutes. How great. Exactly. There you go. That's one of the tips. Time everything. It's the hardest thing to time is the pitter-patter, though. That's the thing that will bring you over. Our next performer is, I'm going to probably mispronounce your last name, Christine Fosse? Boise. Like noisy, Boise. So please come up.
Hi, I'm Christine Fosse, and wow, what great, awesome performances, hard acts to follow. My father was known as the joke man at his assisted living for several years, and he always said it was his self-appointed job to make people smile every day. Thus, I had to help him with some of the jokes every day. But he died this July, at age 97, and I'd like to kind of carry on his tradition, being the oldest girl in the family. So, Dad, this one's for you. And not to brag, but I went into another room this morning, and I actually knew what I was there for. It was a bathroom, okay, but still, you know. And it's been 6 months now. I joined the new gym in town, and obviously no progress. So tomorrow, I'm going there in person to find out what's really going on. Any telemarketers here? Close your ears. A telemarketer actually called us the other day and asked to speak to whomever runs the household. So I passed the phone to the dog. And recently overheard at one of our Falmouth restaurants, the diner was furious when a steak arrived too rare. "Waiter," he barked, "didn't you hear me say well done?" "Oh, I can't thank you enough, sir," replied the waiter. "I hardly ever get a compliment." Then in the same restaurant, a man was overheard telling another man, "I had a rather disturbing discussion with my wife this morning. I said that men like George Clooney and Brad Pitt are a dime a dozen." And she said, "Well, here's a nickel, get me 6. And then talking about food, overheard at the Food and Drug Administration, if laughter is the best medicine, shouldn't we be regulating it? Thankfully, the summer tourist traffic is over. It seems here in Falmouth on Main Street, a young tourist was trying to park his car between two others. He put it in reverse and bang, right into the rear, the car up behind him. He then went forward and bang, right into the car in front. Well, a young local woman was watching the maneuver, and she just couldn't help contain herself. And she said, "Do you always park your car by ear?" So, and of course, we hear the signage here in Massachusetts is the bits. One highway sign read, "Speed limit 65 for most cars and some trucks under 8,000 pounds. Only if they're empty, unless you weigh over 300 pounds, then divide by 6. For additional information, call the IRS. They helped write this sign." Now, on to hot topic of politics. Are you ready? Here's an oldie, but very good. "You don't see me at Vegas or the track throwing my money around anymore," said Bob Hope. "I've got a government to support." And what about the veteran congressman when asked what he had learned in the rough and tumble world of politics? He says, "Well, I found it wasn't so much whether you won or lost, but how you placed the blame." I'm beginning to understand exactly how state lottery helps education. My neighbor told my husband the other day, every time he buys a losing ticket, he gets a little smarter. And what joke session would not be complete without a guy walks into a bar and orders a beer? "Listen," he says to the bartender, "if I show you the most amazing thing you've ever seen, is my beer on the house?" Bartender said, "Well, we'll see." So the guy pulls out a hamster and a tiny piano out of a bag, puts them on the bar, and the hamster begins to play. "Impressive," says the bartender, "but I'll need to see a little more." "Hold on," says the man. He then pulls out a bullfrog, and it sings "Old Man River." A patron jumps up from his table and shouts, "That's absolutely incredible. I'll give you $100 right now for that frog." "Sold," said the guy. So the other patron takes the bullfrog and leaves. "Well, it's none of my business," says the bartender, "but you just gave away a fortune." "Well, not really," says the guy. "The hamster is also a ventriloquist." And if you ever need a little help with your yard work, here's a thought, maybe for fall planting. The inmate was aware that all prison mail passes through censors. When he got a letter from his wife asking about the family garden, "Honey, when do I plant potatoes?" he wrote back, "Do not, under any circumstances, dig up our old garden spot. That's where I buried all my guns." Within days, his wife wrote back, "6 investigators came to our house, and they dug up every square inch of the backyard." And by return mail, you guessed it, she got her answer, "Now is the time to plant the potatoes." So remember, we don't stop laughing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop laughing. Smile, everyone.
Well, I know last month somebody didn't want to go after the singer, but I think this month somebody might not want to go after the comedian, but somebody will. Our next performer is Elaine Robinson. Elaine.
This is my second time here. I performed last time, absolutely enjoyed it, especially loved listening to other people. It was quite a lovely evening. So I'm looking forward to doing this again.
I'm Elaine Robinson, and I guess on a more serious note here, one of the things I really enjoy writing fantasy poetry and reading fantasy poetry. So I have for you 3 mermaid poems. First 2 poems are from the mermaid's perspective, and the third one is a mermaid tale. So we have Human Watcher. She is a salty lady with a smooth fish tail. Sitting on a jetty, she watches as ships sail. Beach bathers gather and laugh, creating sand castles, their summer craft. She observes with an intense, inquisitive look. These fascinating entities deserve a book. She writes of humans, 2 legs, no tail, frolicking on sand, nothing like the mighty whale. Her prose of people causes a stir. Many sea creatures do not believe her. But she still watches from afar while people gather on a sandbar. She feels she must study these lovers of land. Understanding humans is oh so grand. Mermaid thoughts. Perched on coral, tail in the sea, long flowing hair, oh so pretty. She thinks of music, seahorses, whales, but mostly she dwells on human tales. Do they really exist? A wayward myth with a twist? Handsome men seeking treasure. She listens to stories with pleasure. Mermen, sea dragons, humans not seen, so she fantasizes. Her imagination is keen. And then the last one here is the cat and the mermaid. Racing along the dock, she throws me fish. Contentment in my soul is all that I wish. Scratching behind my ears, her smooth hand reassures me. As I close my yellow eyes, she is my friend of the sea. Her tail rises above the waves. My tail is long and hairy, laughing as we play until our bodies are weary. A pirate arrives in anger with a menacing grin. My hackle arise, the mermaid I defend. He raises a spear, longing to capture. My claws extend. He is doomed for shore. Pouncing on his neck, my mermaid dives below. His comrades roar in laughter. They enjoy the show. Backwards he tumbles, off the deck into the sea. A bull shark opens wide, enjoying this human delicacy. My ladyfish giggles. The evil one is gone. She throws me a fish and sings a song. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And did you, two of you come together?
Yes.
Ah, so see, how great is that? And our next performer is, might mispronounce your last name, Jim Hain? Jim. Oh,
I'm Jim Hain, and I would like to do two numbers, Blueberry Hill and Harlem Nocturne.
Thanks, Jim. And our next, actually, poet is Jackie Avoy Dubois. Anyway, you're going to say your whole name when you come up, and it's always hard to follow a musician, but I'm sure Jackie will do us proud. Thank you.
It's nice for people to bring themselves out and get to know other people.
My name is Jackie. It's actually not Avoy Dubois, but that's a joke. I saw it once on a can, net weight. Anyway, so I think it's the name is Jacqueline, so Jacqueline Avoy Dubois, c'est moi. Well, anyway, I have this here, which is my dear sister and I, Twiddledee and Twiddledum. That's why I'm wearing that. And because my first poem is entitled Twiddledee and Twiddledummer. I am a fraternal twin, and my sister is the infernal one. So I have two things I really want to tell you, because I always tell everybody. It's taking my time away, but it's wonderful. Lily Tomlin and Jane Wagner, one thing they wrote was this: the reality, the leading source of stress among those in touch with it. So I just love In Touch With It. And the other thing is Ron White, and I don't have my scotch or cigarette, but it is, he's Southern, and it's, I know I have the right to remain silent. However, I just don't seem to have the ability. Because my relatives are all Southern, so sassy becomes me. Anyway, I hope. It's Twiddledee and Twiddledummer, not determined by birth order number, predestined to be chubby, because chromosomes from mommy and her hubby, diametrically, aptitudinally, and temperamentally opposed, one to science, other to arts disposed, came from the same warm womb where one took all the room. Enantiomorphic in a way, mirror image, then again, who's to say? Outside, battling for dominance, whose name shall remain anonymous. Happy them, the Finney twins, mantra being, let's see who gives in. Another poem I wrote was this. It's to Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening, something or other. Doesn't have a name. Whose beach this is, I think I know. It's a summer residence, one rolling in the dough, Rolski and the Dolski. He just might see me stopping here to trespass his nature's sand, so my big borrowed black lab does not think it's queer to stop without a porta potty near, between the sand dunes and the water's edge, a bright summer's day of the year. He gives his hiney a mighty squat to do his routine of you know what. My only other task to make, tempting full-bodied hydrangea blooms to take. The beach was lovely, clean and white, but I have promises in sight and miles of clipping claiming rights and smiles to go before I'm caught and miles to go before I'm caught. And I don't do that, but anyway. This is a job I once had. It's under the category of jobs I wish I'd never taken. All right. I once was employed as a landscaper's toady, the wealthy's estates of their weeds to unloady. Only, as I struggled beneath the thorny rows of rugosas, I started to think of my boss and owners as bozos, both wanting the gardens florally idyllic, yet not even knowing their contents. By way of my work, I'd make for them bouquets of compliments. All sorts of crews came to ready the paradise properties, among them the HVACs, and I did glean window cleaning companies. Until one day I opened my eyes to see my proletariat leanings got the better of me. no longer willing to satisfy their needs for garden areas pristine. I vowed rather to gather and do seed invasive, noxious weeds, my addition of seed heads to their flower beds. And partly too because of what my boss had said, how fat people pulling weeds by the hour were slower as they worked among the flowers. Today I smiled broadly, such schlocksidity. My old boss still unknowing that I know, me anticipating what new weeds will grow. And the other one, I hope I have time, is I watch a Japanese cooking show to get me right into the know, and I was intro to the idea plane of how food should both entice and entertain. So this morning, as I made my oatmeal and hoped that concept would be revealed, I sat and stared at the bowl intensely, waiting to be amused immensely. I sat, and then I stirred, anticipating, yet not even a word, nor a tap dance, a bit of poetry or joke, came forward from my many pokes. No sign of geothermal's bubbly hot, so unlike Yellowstone's paint pots. It just sat there, silent and rather inert, a blob which failed to convert into enjoyable company as I chewed. So I guess that I have misconstrued the social ability of oats that are stewed. They are self-absorbed and really rude, content just to sit in a bowl and brood. Henceforth, I will choose for a meal foodstuffs that have movement and pizzazz appeal, food that I can audibly slurp, food that will produce a quiet burp, just the kind of food that will usurperize the mundane. Ah, oodles of noodles of oishi des surprises, lo mein. Thank you.
Well, I think, Jackie, you're on the cutting edge of, it's sort of like where comedy and poetry meet, which is great. And our next poet, I've finally, last month, learned how to say his name is T. Roy Cutler. T. Roy.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Troy T. Roy Cutler. I am from Falmouth, as I said last month, if you were watching the video, the YouTube video. And I have a few poems tonight, but before that, I have a saying. Hi, my name is Troy, T. Roy for short, also long because the hyphen that's in the name. This one I did last month, but for those of you that were not here, I want to do it again. This one is called Falmouth. Falmouth is a town so grand, all the people in it can't withstand. Up and down the streets we go, meet new faces to and fro. It is indeed a large town. You never know when a new poem is going down. Bright lights in city squares. No, we do not have any fairs, but fairs we do have in all season. They should never stop for no rhyme, no reason. This next one I have is a new one. I wrote it a couple mornings ago, but should still be good. Yeah, I joke with my own poems. This one's called The Pond. The pond is so quiet and gentle, my bike can't go on it since it's the wrong rental. The shop down the street said it was fine, but now I know that that bike was not mine. That's it for me. Now go ride your new bike or old. Mine no, never will be sold. All right, another one. This one's called The Sun. The sun is coming up now, flowers to grow. To the sky, go, go, go. They grow every day without stopping. Hey, do your worst, but no chopping. They are so cute with their buzzing around bees, but next time I'll get stung, I'll fall to my aching knees. How about a third new one? Here we go. Today is a new day, that is for sure. Today is a new day, anything can fly by. Let's give this nice roller coaster a try. Up and down, loop-de-loop. Hey, can you give me a scoop? I don't really need it that much. Watch out for the next hill I love to touch. The ride is over now. Do I dare get on again? I don't know. I don't know when. All right. think I have a couple more minutes, right? Okay. This one's called Clocking In. Clocking, I just checked the time. Time is ticking away, they say, whether inside or out. Is that vodka better than the spout? Well, I don't know, but it sure looks pink. Did you wash your hands by the sink? This restaurant is one of the best in service around. Everything seems a no-nose bound. Thank you. Now one more. I did this one last month as well. This one's called the toll over mic, and I've always said that you could pay a free toll, but it's a toll at that. So this one's the toll over mic. If you do not come to open mic, you most likely not own a bike. Usually you get here by car, even if your residence is not that far. Poetry musical acts we perform. Man, what a peep show. What a swarm. Mondays and Tuesdays and now on Thursdays too. Hey mom, can you find my left shoe? I do act out in these days of mini theater shows. What will my next poem be about? Will it have the grows? My beloved poems I do explore. This is the end of the current one. Oh look, there's the door.
That's great, T-Roy. Thank you. And our next poet is Millie White. Millie.
When you sit for a long time, you get up and you... Well, I had a poem that I was going to read, but I see the way this evening is going, there's an awful lot of comedy here. So, and the poem is kind of, how do you pronounce it, doer? So against all advice, I'm going to tell a funny story that came up today. But first I wanted to thank Alice and the TV station for giving us these wonderful opportunities. So, and our community needs to support the station and their wonderful staff. So I'd like to give them a round of applause. So once again, against all advice, there are a couple of guys in the neighborhood that walk their dog and drive their car, and they always stop to talk to me. And Richard was telling me about this V of geese that were flying in and almost ran him down. He was walking on a trail. And that made me remember something that had happened when I lived in New Jersey. I lived in a valley. Yes, there are valleys in New Jersey. And surrounded by woods. And there was a V of geese flying. I was up in the pasture, and the geese were in this beautiful V. And I shouted to them, "Have a wonderful trip, have a wonderful trip." And they just stopped. And this is a true story, and you have to believe this. This is a true story. They formed a question mark in the sky. So I said, "Have a wonderful trip. Do you hear me? Have a wonderful trip." And still they flew in this question mark. Brad, who was listening to this story, said, I know why they made a question mark. They didn't understand you. They were French Canadian geese."
Oh, Millie, please come back and do something spontaneous again. Pourquoi? So our next poet is the person I ran into in the Stop and Shop, Terez Michaud. Please welcome her, who is probably French-Canadian.
My name is Terez Michaud, and I'm Irish. But my mother named me after a French nun, and so I had to marry a Frenchman, but I got the name. So I started writing long ago when I was a teenager, and then I stopped at various points, but always pick it up again. So this is me coming back again after cancer and memory issues and all kinds of challenges, because the poet is always alive in me. So here's some older stuff until I can come back with newer stuff as my confidence returns. This is called Grandfather. My dad's father died before I was born, so what I know of him is gleaned entirely from people who did know him, and how much of that stuff is embellishment remains a mystery. Of my other grandfather, I have plenty of history, since he lived in the apartment below us for the first 11 formative years of my life. I'm a nervous wreck and shaking, so I have to kind of wiggle it out. Okay. My child bedroom, which I shared with 4 other siblings, was directly above his bedroom, and I could hear him praying in a loud and rhythmic whisper if the conditions were right. My grandpa was a haberdasher with a long stride and a firm grip and a crop of white hair that wouldn't quit. I was at times afraid of him when he yelled, but then he would be nice again, and it seemed to be his way. Sometimes he just didn't like so many kids running up and down the stairs, but you could run pretty quick past his door and escape without a scolding. We shared a 3-family house with my grandparents on the first floor, and under Gran and Gramp lived my Uncle Bob and Aunt Ruth. My grandpa was called the boss, but over time I could gather, I could see that it was merely a title wisely used by my uncle and father to convey respect. My grandfather ate amazing sandwiches, like sliced onions with mustard, washed down with a healthy mug of gold beer. I loved to watch him take the first bite. When the onion crunched and the mustard leaked out as Grandpa's glasses slid down and his whiskered neck jiggled and resettled to the next bite. I don't know why I'm so nervous, but I am. But I'm working it out. Give me an hour and I'll be calm. All right. Here's a poem I wrote before cancer. It's hard to be romantic in the techno age. There's such a different meaning to all the rage. I long for softer edges and slower, thoughtful pace, for simple pleasures realized without the grinding race. I like gauzy flowered dresses, suggesting female form, music floating on the breeze, the drenching summer storm. A hot and languid August unravels by the sea. Poems like ripened peaches are falling out of me. It's hard to be romantic when machines do all the work, when computer-menued voices have replaced the human clerk, when leaves are blown, not raked, by noisy gas-powered blowers, when food is grown in corporate fields, untouched by human growers. It's hard to be romantic when popular tunes are coarse, when everything is sexual, bereft of all remorse. I know that I could turn and go along with fashion, but it's hard to be romantic without a reverent passion. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. So come back. Yeah, really, it's true. And our next reader or performer is John Jackson. Welcome, John.
The limerick form speaks to me because it's simple, it's clean, well-defined, and reasonably malleable, and no one expects them to be PG.
I'm John Jackson. Excuse me. Lately, my
my muse, my outlet for all sorts of, shall we say, political angst has been limericks. Limericksofprotest.com. I will try and keep some of the heavier stuff out, but I do try and pack some good stuff into those 5 lines. The harming of others, deliberate. All world religions prohibit it. I'll no longer hear quarrels with persons whose morals would condone or even consider it. A few weeks ago, someone asked if I was okay, and I really didn't want to be interrupted because I was somewhere else. Am I okay? I know that you care when you're working on me in your chair. I'll tell you the truth. When you're drilling my tooth, I'm happiest if I'm just not there. Think of jazz as a collaborative dream, taking turns making riffs on a theme. It's a bit like flirtation or a good conversation. On Facebook, all you get is a meme. Straight pride, so incredibly weird, as if gay was a thing to be feared. I can see the attraction. Half the marchers want action, and the rest are just there for a beard. Some of you have a vocabulary. When continuous improvement is the basis, all the old names and all the old faces, it's really not strange that an agent of change butts heads with an agent of stasis. Super Bowl, big television. Not for me, I've made that decision. We don't get to choose who will win, who will lose. They do not need my supervision. Dedicated to my bride. Every night in our quest for the truth, in the hand she demands higher proof. The ritual I fix her, favorite elixir, and I do not add too much vermouth. I look at the clock, and I reckons the need to be vertical beckons, and get on with my life, but snuggling my wife, I guess we can stay some more seconds. Another muse would be Piet Hein, who wrote very, very short poetry called Grooks. His most famous one is Coexistence or No Existence. 2 words, you can't beat that. So I come up with things like, old age is the prize that you get for the years where you haven't died yet. This next is not a limerick. It's in sort of Grook form, although it's not nearly as meaningful. It's white and it's fluffy and blowing like stink. Shoveling's a toughie, but here's what I think. All I need do is lift it, and not all that hard. The wind will just gift it to some other yard. As I turn from my labor, my dismay and surprise, my upwind neighbor threw his snow in my eyes. As literature, limericks are sparse, but usually easy to parse. Follow meter and form, and most times the norm is to end with a word such as arse. I was asked if I was going to do anything off color, so I'll do one. There was an old man of Agra who took a bit too much Viagra. He could debauch your daughter, but he couldn't pass water. When he came down, he peed like Niagara. I could write a good limerick about lime. There's a citrus that's easy to rhyme. Or a poem about lemon. I could squeeze them in, but I can't write a limerick about orange. And now I need to find a good word to rhyme with Ukraine.
Oh, that's great. When you come up with a good word to rhyme with Ukraine, we definitely want to hear it. I think we might have a little time for you to do that, too. So our next reader is Michael Borden. Michael.
Hi, my name's Mike Borden. And I guess just a little bit of context, maybe, because I just have the one poem. I didn't know I should try to fill 5 minutes. I don't know if anybody has ever had, like, a very, very fundamental worldview shift. For me, on June 12, 2002, I became a Christian. And ever since that time, everything that I come in contact with, every person, every idea, my own thoughts, I've had to try to make that thought obey my new worldview. And this poem is sort of about that. It's called Beautiful Now. How captivatingly easy it is, employing a gift in whatever amount, to consider myself in the good-doing biz and taking the credit that only is his to chalk it up to my own account. When, truthfully speaking, a finite mind, enslaved by intrinsically selfish desire, can never be altruistically kind or joyfully bend to what truth it might find. While selling the lie, it is also the buyer. And here lies the rub and the stumbling stone against which all of us bark our shins. That desperately clinging to what we have known and fruitlessly trying to make it our own is taking us further from where it begins. Reception of truth is a death of the self. The throes of its agony frightfully droll. When taking my trophies down off of the shelf, I acknowledge that he who created myself is beautiful now in the eyes of my soul. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And, you know, I said at the outset, you know, everybody has a voice, everybody has a way of communicating, so thanks for adding your voice to our voices. And our next poet is Joan Vaughn. Joan.
Thank you, Alice. It's so good to see you again. Miss the old group at the West Falmouth Library. I have created a new work that I'm calling The Seventh Vision, and I'm using a concept called ekphrasix. Some of you may know what that is. You combine one of your original pieces of art with one of your poems. So I will read 3 short ones. To dream forever of the sea. Being born away from the sea, when that precious water is life itself, compels my soul and spirit always to dream of leaving. I am leaving again without warning. The longing this time is stronger than I can control. Being alone by the sea is the fulfillment that completes me, away, far away from harm. And this one is a wonderful, I guess you'd call it a sundog that I captured up at Duxbury Beach. Magic mirror. I have gone through the looking glass to the other side. It is very peaceful there. One can look into the future, but you cannot look back. What would be the point? Crossings must be done with great care. We must not disturb the holy souls resting there. Now that you are here, my need to remain on this side of reality is what I must try to do for you. And this one is a beautiful swan that posed for me at the Sandwich Gristmill. He swam until I got 10 pictures of him or her. Believe and dreams come true. Another searching soul has crossed my path, a shining soul, a dreamer like me. When our hands touched that day at the harbor, there was something so comforting, so familiar about him. When messages are sent through soft and tender touch, such as that, and followed by a gentle kiss, I can believe in magic again. And this one is a picture of a painting that I've done of a mermaid. And her name is Cyania. And the poem is Sweetest Days. The sweetest days of summer are in September, when the heavenly season is fading. Rusted roses, hazy sunsets came all too soon for summer lovers. Each day going to the precious ocean side seems more urgent now, counting herons as I go. I give thanks each day for having washed ashore on this beautiful Cape Cod island, but my heart is not yet home. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Joan. And actually, you know, for Calliope, this is our new home. So how great is that? And you can see yourselves later when it's up on YouTube. So, and on channel 13, Lucky 13. All right, so our next poet is Mary Swope. Please welcome Mary.
How nice to be back. I realize I've been writing poetry for something like 70 years. And I've been looking at some of the poems I wrote when I was 12 and 14. And one thing that I find is consistent in the work that I've done is music. I love words, and I love the sounds of words. And I always have felt, and I think I was brought up with the idea that poetry should be heard, not just read on a page. And I think the poems I've written, I started out writing in form and in rhyme and meter. But I've always, even when I don't write in rhyme and meter, I'm very aware of the sound that the poem makes, and and the relationship of poetry and music is an interesting one. So I've chosen two poems, one that I wrote when I was 12, and one that, maybe I was 14, I think I was 14. And I was on Nobska Beach, where I often am now, and then another poem about music itself. Sandpiper. The waves rise, the waters fall, the silk moon cries, the milk gulls call. Into the reeling great adagio trips busybody in a quick two-step, legs gliding swiftly al capricioso, while dipping dappled head along the beach, he picks out strips of moonbeam, neatly, nicely, stops, then trills. Again he stops to reach for glimmering dreams there, almost too precisely. As the breathing wave draws in once more, lacy footprints litter up the shore. And this is an organ recital that I heard at St. Columba's church in Washington, D.C. And the church had just installed a tracker organ, which is an organ that was created by a Mr. Flentrop from from Holland, and Mr. Flentrop came and actually installed the organ, and so there was a great celebration, and J. Riley Lewis from the cathedral was asked to come and play, and it was quite a concert. And this was my attempt to put it into poetry. On the long bench at the Flentrop, J. Riley Lewis connects fingers with feet, pipes with bells and bellows to enter the ocean of J.S. Bach, mining the deeps, opening, closing stops. Unstoppered, the instrument pours forth treasure as though no stop were needed nor ever even possible. Each braided line running clear as a rivulet over stone, running to catch up, catch hold of theme, of resolution, of whatever it is that stops the breath. Our very breathing stopped. We hear the music include, occlude, and darken. Then, before it can, we know it must conclude. The young Johann Sebastian sits before us, taking between arms and legs, fugue à la gigue, his flashing shoes, cutting up like a dancing master's.
Well, to listen to you is like listening to music. Thank you, Mary. And I'm glad that you made the connection between music, lyric is a form of music, and whether it rhymes or it doesn't rhyme, something about hearing the poem embodied by the poet really makes you remember it, so thank you. And our next poet is Sam Carlton. Welcome, Sam.
Good to be back. Thank you, Alice. Mary's my sister. I really grew up here, I think. I feel I grew up in the country. However, half of the year we went back to New York City, where I went to school. And I'd sit there trying to look at the blackboard, but I was a very bad student. So I sort of dreamed, and I knew for sure that my real family lived on a ranch out west, and I should be there riding a horse. This is something that's really become part of me. So I say I have Eastern roots, but wear Western boots. And this comes out of it. I was going to do all the states in the Union, so I'd write a poem about them, and I only have 47 left. This is called Montana. I've never been there. Just the sound of it makes my heart race. A high country of horses, smart dogs, herds of sheep. At Jane's place, the smell of strong coffee, steak, and eggs, the scrape of chairs pulled back, muffled voices as a door opens and closes, letting cold air in. Jane has seen them all, year after year. Jake, how's your wife doing? Okay, I guess. Hard to know with her. Misses that little dog, though. It gets very quiet. Someone nods, stands up, and goes over to him, places one hand on his shoulder, speaks too low to be heard, then puts on his hat to leave. As the door swings open onto the parking lot of trucks, muddy jeeps, a dusting of snow on the ground, an endless sky, he says, "Jake, see you tomorrow," Call me, okay? Tell your wife I have a litter of pups coming. The second, you stole my thunder. The second, I've been listening to the new Ken Burns documentary. Some of you may be listening to it as well. And I feel like I grew up with Baroque music and a little folk. So I feel like I've had a complete transfusion. And the flugelhorns and harpsichords are out. And country music is circulating through. So I wrote a country music song the other day in response to Ken Burns. She has as bad as yours, maybe worse. Got the hat on. My heart was broken 100 times. The door was open, but shut me out. The glass was empty when I came by. My darling left with another guy. I don't know whether to stay or go. The road is dusty, my horse is old. My home is where the river ends. Lead me to some loving arms, sing a song to smooth my ride. Tell the clouds to hold the rain while I pass beneath their shade. I don't know whether to stay or go. The road is dusty. My home is where the river ends. My heart is broke, my horse is old, my gal is gone with my best friend. I think I'll stop beneath a tree and wait until the dark night ends. Write me a song of love and care. Sing me a song to ease my pain. Write on my grave that he was fair, but she was cruel, but he was kind. I don't know whether to stay or go. The road is dusty, my horse is old. My home is where the river ends. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Actually, that's a wonderful country western. So guess what? You're not going to win the bad poetry contest. You're going to win the really good country western theme. And I have been watching Ken Burns, and it's been an amazing experience. Many of them died so young and from addiction. And our next reader is Joanne Nadeau. Joanne? Thanks.
There's been some tall people in front of me, so I'll move this mic down. Hi, everyone. My name is Joanne Nadeau. And 2 years ago, in 2017, I retired as a preschool teacher. And also in May of that year, my husband passed away after a 2-year battle with cancer. So that began my writing journey. I joined a group in Mashpee and have just found writing has been so healing and helpful to me as I navigate this new chapter in my life. So I brought a personal essay tonight, and it's called Finding Spring in Oregon. I told myself that spring was right around the corner as I looked at the piles of muddy snow sitting in my yard. And for a second time that morning, I pushed up the heat on the thermostat. The days on Cape Cod in early March of 2018 were days of wintry, windy weather. The trees were bare, and my skin was chapped from temperatures stuck in the 20s. It had been a cold year since my husband had passed away, but loneliness and cold, two unwanted guests, felt like permanent residence in my home. Another nor'easter was heading for New England, so I headed to Oregon to spend 3 weeks with my daughters. I was looking forward to the early spring in the Pacific Northwest. I arrived to a cold rain. It was dark when the taxi pulled up to my daughter's house. The porch light shined on a picture drawn in pencil hung on the front door. And as I approached, I saw that it was a picture of the family. My daughter, her husband, my twin grandsons, their auntie, and me, all holding hands, with a caption that read, "Welcome, grandmother." The door opened, and I was swept in a swirl of hugs. Later that night, with a full heart, I headed up to the guest room. The flannel sheets were on the bed. The electric blanket was right where I had left it. I turned it on, settled under the covers, and let out a deep sigh. I was with family again. I spent the next few days reconnecting, settling into my role as mom and grandma, making pancakes, reading adventure stories, and cooking our favorite meals. Outside, I noticed more colors appearing each day, despite gray skies. Pink petals covered the trees. Bright yellow daffodils stood straight and tall by purple hyacinths on every corner. Then one day the sun appeared, and it was a glorious 70 degrees the day we drove to the coast. This was my first trip to the Oregon coast, with its churning whitecaps and strong undertows. My girls and I walked the beach, each of us absorbed in our own thoughts, each of us connected by our shared loss. I felt the sun on my skin, and I savored the warmth that slowly melted the cold that had been with me these long months, the chill of grief and loss. My daughters stood on either side of me, and we watched the waves crash to the shore. After a while, we walked back to the car, and one of the girls suggested ice cream. Yes, I thought, I'm ready for ice cream.
Thank you, Joanne. And if I remember right, or please correct me if I'm wrong, that's the group that Natalie runs at the Mashpee Public Library. And recently at the Falmouth Public Library, there was a celebration of writing by people with cancer or their caregivers. So thanks for reading that. This is one of the things about poetry or writing in general. It really connects people. So it's great to make all these connections. So our next poet up is Kathleen Casey. Kathleen.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Kathleen Casey from East Falmouth, and I have one poem to read that is about a favorite spot near my home. Early Autumn in Quashnet Woods. The initial path is bright, lined with wild asters, whose fuzzy gold faces, orbed in lavender petals, wave welcome to you who arrive. Skip our saunter, listen to the shush of wind, which skirts through treetops and spills cool air, refreshing and fragrant with sassafras and pine. Well, it seems that jays and wrens whistle songs heartier and more insistent than sweet warblers and thrushes now settled in southern climes. Noticed rays of sunshine glinting, illuminating gray-blue lichen on scattered boulders, while green moss grows, the greenest of greens, on shadowed ground and logs. And know that even on long days when skies are clouded with troubles, days when you feel an overwhelming solitary sadness, that stars still glow above these woods, above this world. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. And it is beautiful to use nature as the prompt. And I've always learned so much about birds from you. Thanks so much. And our next poet is Andrew Belinsky. Another Andrew. Andrew.
I'd say poetry is expression, but it doesn't necessarily have to be expression. It can be a vessel for truth, for self, for anything basically that you want it to be.
Hello, I'm Andrew Belinsky. So this poem is based on my favorite Impressionist painting, The Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. Some of you might have heard about it. So I want to preface this by one of Van Gogh's famous quotes. When I have a terrible need of, shall I say the word, religion, then I go out and paint the stars. Oh God, the mind can grasp only so much, and how, I beg that night sky, can one begin to grasp when the sky itself cannot seem to contain those sharp disturbances? Brightening and forming, pushing the darkness into itself like petrol lies upon the water black. I can see it now. This simple frame cannot contain a cosmic pool that surely spills out of its canvas and floods my vision. A picture in motion before me as if I were mad. To be a part of this incredible sight, to be those stars, the universe clinging to my body, circling around my mind. But alas, we can only watch, trapped within ourselves. The twisting branches of function keeping us blind, and the lights of the towns keeping us mute. Despite all of this, I see and I wonder when I look up at the night sky, if I have that same terrible need, and if I see the same sky. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Andrew. Keep coming back. And I understand from the other Andrew that perhaps you heard about it through the Falmouth High School. So please say hello to Sarah Cox for me. Our next reader, our next poet is Magnolia DeAngelis. Magnolia.
Oh, wow, it's another teenager. All right. To give you some perspective, obviously I am a teenager. I found it was really funny that Mike, when you shared that that you became a Christian in 2002. That was the year I was born. Just to give you some perspective, as well as Mary, I think you were writing poetry for 17 years. That's my age. All right, so I have two poems for you. The first one is about some time I spent in a mental hospital. All right. It's called Why Lying in a Road Feels So Much Like Home. All right. The last time I laid down in a road, it took me back to December of 2016. I was a freshman in high school. Laying in that road, I felt the chilled asphalt beneath me gradually drain the warmth from the surface of my skin, beginning to tug at the very edges of my existence, the way the ocean gently tugs the shore. Just then, it was the cold tile floor of the room where I stayed that meaningful December. I could feel the pull of the cold through my clothes, and I laid there, surrendering to that feeling, that sense of succumbing to the gradual dissection of my being. And in the road, I slowly opened the palms of my hands, turning them to face the ground. I ran a finger across the rugged cement, a reminder of the absence of the tile I had come to know so well. It was quiet. But where there was once the chatter of adults at the end of the hallway, or the faint sound of music emitted from the CD player in the neighboring room, was the replacement of leaves rustling on tree branches and in the slight but apparent breeze, and the cricket songs of summer awaiting an observant ear. Back there, I could turn my body to the side, rest my head on the smooth surface of the floor, and slowly curl my knees to my chest as if moving too quickly might break my rusty joints and limbs. Here, I must lay still, face to the stars, arms outstretched as if I was a star myself, or simply allow them to lie limp at my sides, as if exerting the smallest amount of energy would ruin the ritual. The street lights emitted the same orange-yellow light that the hallways did, like the glow of tamed flames that warmed my fingertips on days spent among the trees. Home is wherever we are. Let me point out the emphasis applied to we. Home is not wherever I am, but perhaps it is wherever they are. McLean Southeast AR treatment program was not home. In fact, it was approximately an hour and a half away from home. But in some strange way, the same ties that kept me coupled to that small shingled house I call my own connect me to that one-story brick building filled with broken people. It's the first one. All right, the second one is called 660 Days. It's actually about my boyfriend who I've been dating for almost 2 years now, as of next December. And of course, I'm young and in love, so take it as you want. But, you know. All right. Might seem a little dramatic, but I feel it, so. All right. I miss him every night before bed. Gingerly, I crawl into the sheets, hoping to find him waiting there somehow, letting my fingers glide between the blankets, searching for his hand to hold. Though I know I won't find him tonight, or tomorrow night. And this is my nightly routine, a desperate search in vain, a glimmer of hope, a wish I make when blowing an eyelash away, snuffing out birthday candles, or sending off dandelions in the wind. One day I will fall asleep in his arms. Some nights are worse than others. Some nights I long for my fingertips to dance across his skin the way my blue and his brown eyes lock when my hands are in his hair. When I look at him, my face melts in adoration. My fingers twitch in anticipation of the opportunity to hold his head in my hands, to press his lips to mine. I am so in love. And time hasn't changed a thing. This past year and 9 months, these past 660 days have been filled with so much life. Yet there is so much more life to live. I hope I spend it by his side. I will never tire of hearing him talk about things he loves, even when it's not me. Even when it's the 5th time today I've heard him talk lovingly about the TV show Dragon Ball Z. I will never cease to look at him as if he is my entire world, the love of my life. I'm not sure if it takes courage, devotion, or naivety to say that I think I might marry him one day, but say it I will. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Magnolia. And you know what? We can remember when we were young. And now that we've heard it, actually, you know what? The best is yet to be, really. So our next reader is Janine Rose. just say it again when you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the first time I heard rosé. That's kind of fancy. Good evening. My name is Janine Rouse, and I'll be performing 5 short poems. The first one is called Live Out Loud. Sometimes your heart may weep. Sometimes it may skip a beat. A beautiful thing is that it does not repeat. So, live out loud, scream in your head, because there is no limit until you are dead. Don't let fear seize you or jealousy bereave you. And don't let chaos become you. We die silently, so we must live out loud. Thank you. This is untitled. I like the rhythm of your breath against my skin. Entangled sheets. As the moonlight fades into morning, I am held by your strong hands and hungry eyes. Does this moment have to end? Thank you. This next poem is called Kiss, and it's kind of funny because I wrote it after having Kiss in the Rain, and it's raining tonight, so I thought that was pretty cool. Pause. Start. Breathe. Deep. Hard. Soft. Taste. Sweet. Warm. Rain. Quiet. Street. Hearts. Beat. Pause. Start. Breathe. Deep. Kiss. And this poem is called Cosmic Explosions. Do you feel that? Ripples in the air as our energies collide. We are molecules. We are matter. The gravity holds us together as much as it keeps us apart. Cosmic explosions, light in endless space, orbs, stardust, falling down from the sky. We are timeless matter. I breathe you in. I breathe you out. And when it's over, our romance will have its place amongst the stars long after they burn out. Thank you. I was looking for the other poem, but it's right here. This one's called Your Song. I fell too hard. I fell too fast into the music that seduces my soul. Retrieve my being from your existence. Take your time with me. I can see through the lights and the vibrations in your song. Seal me like an envelope with your voice so that you leave me without much choice. Let me swim in this music which relieves my tired heart. Take me, break me, make me your song. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Janine. We're moving down towards the end, but our next poet is Susan Beth Carlson. Susan Beth. There.
Hi. I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this. So my cell phone's dying, so I sent it to my friend's phone. So I might be going a little back and forth here. And actually this first one is what a poem, so all these poignant words and expressions of art from all these people, it's just so touching and polished. And so this is what a poem sounds like when it was just written and it's not done yet. This is Hummingbirds. We were greeted by Apache drummers and Mexican dancers with swirl. This is not the poem, this is the introduction. My introductions are longer than my poems sometimes. We were greeted by Apache drummers and Mexican dancers with swirling, colorful skirts. I was among the flowers and humans and hummingbirds who attended the Children's Music Network National Yearly Gathering in Arizona this past week. Of 300 races worldwide, 13 races of birds are humming above the Renewal Center grounds in Arizona. And humans come in all varieties too, with hair of orange gold, silver, blonde, or deep brown, and skin from cocoa to beige, dark chocolate to orange red. And this is the poem that came. Apache humans hum in drumming dances round. Calliopes and costas hum in silent birdsong sound. Like wings of birds a-humming, their brightly colored flirt, Mexicans dance circles of brightly woven skirts, while gathering sweet, sweet nectar from each bright cup they've found. Birdies pollinate seeds of singing as their wings hum a silent sound. The songs will have messages ringing, so soulful, profound, and dear. One finds that a heart song is singing whenever they are near. So I'm still working on it. And let's see. Growing in the sun. I was walking the labyrinth at this same conference in Arizona. When we turn our backs to the sun, we can only see a shadow of ourselves. People say an overshadowing crisis masquerades as opportunity, that it brings us strength to find the light. I could do without so many opportunities. After all, the sun exists whether or not there are shadows. It is the shadows that cannot exist without the sun. And this one, I was sitting by a lake in Maine watching nuthatches, little birdies. They go on top of the tree and then they go underneath like by some kind of, I don't know how they stay attached, but they do it. They were playfully hanging below the branches, so I called them branch birds, which is the name of this poem. Waves gracefully play for us the rhythm of time, till branch birds once again dance upon the boughs in the soft dawn of the evening light. These magical birds come to life atop, then appear beneath each branch, their joy turning gravity upside down. And this one I wasn't even going to read, but there was a lot about seasons and leaves and things like so. It just reminded me of this one. I wrote this one a couple years ago, I think. A graceful fall. This was after a music retreat that I went to. It was so beautiful there. And this is the poem now. I've fallen before. I've seen them leave. I've imagined the cold that is coming. This fall is different. The leaves are brighter. Red pinks and orange yellows painted atop the summer's green, still lingering in late October. Long ago they gathered in crinkly monotone clumps, falling, leaving all at once, echoing the pain of the summer's passing. I have fallen for that before. This fall, leaves send vivid rainbows through branches and one by one begin their inspired dance, floating to and fro like a gentle whispering of fairies, spirits, or butterflies on their way. Just like a bird gently alighting on a bough, they are here with me now, quietly and deeply sending their message that we are falling not into the deep cold of winter to come or seasons past, but into the comforting presence of the moment's glorious grace. Thank you.
Well, I'm awfully glad that technology was resolved. That would be sad if you got there in the middle and the cell phone died. So our next poet is Susan Elizabeth Clark. Sue, welcome her.
Hello, I'm Susan Elizabeth Clark, and I have poems of love, lust, and loss. The unaffairs. On Monday, he had an unaffair, sprawled out in his shabby chair, enveloped in smoky TV blare, transfixed by lust. He could but stare as starlet danced across the tube, displaying scanty hem and boob, smiling at the press flash cube. She would have scorned this horny rube. His love for her flowed o'er the brim as she displayed a shapely limb, even though his hope most dim. In his mind, she smiled for him. On Wednesday at the supermart, her lonely heart gave quite a start. There from her an aisle apart, Adonis pushed a shopping cart. To him, of course, most unaware, this lady could not help but stare. Lit by harsh fluorescent glare, she fancied having a love affair. She followed him as in a trance, imagining him a partner in dance. But all she did was look askance. Too shy was she to forward romance. On Saturday night, the weather drear, he went and bought a case of beer and called his honey, sweetie, dear. Okay, hold on. To ask if he could come, be near. Glad that he had called ahead, I need to go and shop, she said. I'm out of eggs and milk and bread. She knew he only wanted bed. She told herself it's not a sin to not go out and stay within. With cup of tea, she would begin her brand new romance harlequin. A lesser humility here. In the graveyard of rusty hearts. In the graveyard of rusty hearts, protected by steel links and razored barbs, to discourage lusters of wanton memories and robbers of carburetor and chrome, gear and gasket, mirror and muffler, rim and rubber, ghosts haunt. They drift through doors hanging half-hinged to linger among the debris of the wee creatures who now call the metal vaults home. They settle on bare, twisted springs, which once gave off the fetid perfume of new leather, poised for journeys to nowhere with lifeless radios blaring and sightless headlights cutting the shadows. How many crusted miles measured by stilled dials with twisted red needles lie now entombed in this yard of lost dreams. Wedged behind the back seat of the red and white 56 Bel Air Chevy, crushed under the weight of a silver 62 Buick Wildcat, is the high school ring and faux gold necklace, twisted from the nubile neck of the senior prom queen on that passionate night when her king breathed frenzied promises of forever love. The next day, the young soldier left for hot, steamy jungles far away, and the girl spent a fretful 3 weeks before her period flowed again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan Elizabeth Clark. And we have one reader that I know of before Rich will wind us up in a little bit. So our next poet is Fiona Trumbull. Fiona, hey, thank you.
I'm Fiona. I only found out about this event today, actually, so this poem is the cheesy product of a free period at school. So, yeah. Some days we are the musicians playing the cellos as the spaceship goes down. There's no quiet way to end this. In an alternate universe, love is a flat rock that never sinks, no matter how often we skip the stones across moon-reflected lakes. So let us stay strangers. Let us breathe right here, still and empty-handed, collapsing through time and space, leaving me speechless under your solar astrochemistry, quasi-stellar radio source of static dynamic, my dream maker, my celestial sun song, my dear, make me your satellite, star-spun flight paths of taffy pulled too thin against spilled salt, black tablecloth, my supernova, my heavenly Polaris, my love.
Well, I'm glad you had a free period. That's good. So did I miss anybody? Did anybody not? Sometimes I want to make sure last time I skipped over somebody. All right. So the person who's going to close us out tonight is Rich Humans. Rich.
Hey everyone, I'm Rich Humans, and it's really been just a great night. The stories, the poetry, the music, the humor. Alice had mentioned, I think at the beginning, that the first Poetic license had been really a feeling of community. I'd say it's probably that and more tonight. And with FCTV and Alice, just thank you for this opportunity. It's been great. So, speaking of community, I'm going to read one poem. And it's really about a coming together, and it's written in the Japanese haibun form, which is a short piece of prose that's followed by a haiku, and this is called Alignments. After she lost her sight, I visited every afternoon and read aloud the day's news. She sat in her hickory rocker, her back to a picture window filled with sky. I sat facing her, the paper sections piling around me as I read through their abundance of bad news. In one day, 2 drivers exchanged angry words over a fender bender until one pulled a gun and shot the other dead. A rally for peace turned into a riot as war and anti-war faced off. A son, during an argument over his fiancée, threw his 70-year-old father down a flight of steps. Into the afternoon we sat, her face pointed toward mine. Yet her line of vision never quite hit the mark. Usually she stared past my left ear, as if lost in a daydream. I'd ignore it, but now and then she would check herself. Am I looking at you? Quietly, I would move my chair a few inches to the left, until our eyes aligned. Yes, I'd say, and continue reading, ever amazed at how such small adjustments could set things so right. Sundown. Reading to the blind woman, I enter her shadow. Thank you.
Oh, I want to just thank Andrew and Debbie and all the staff here for creating a community, and also all the volunteers. And Rich and I have become new members, so I really want to encourage you to get to know the Falmouth Community TV program, and they do wonderful trainings, especially anybody who has an interest in doing something here. Get to know Andrew and all the people who work here. I just wanted to say the 2 things you can do to say thank you is spread the word. We'll make sure that you will get in out of the rain, and we'll figure out things and give feedback to Andrew and I. We did add music this time, so we're really open to making this a true community event, because everybody has a voice and everybody matters. And we're delighted that we have diversity of age. The only feedback I've gotten so far was somebody saying, could you possibly have a makeup artist, especially maybe to take either some of our white out or take off a few years, or else can you get somebody to do hair for us too? Now, the next poetic license, which I think could have been called Poetic Justice, if you think about it, is going to be on Thursday, October 24th. It'll be here, same time, same routine, and it will be during Free Speech Week. So we're really excited that poetry and story and song is part of that. And I always seem to have I won't say a commercial because I'm on community TV, but something for you to pick up. Calliope Poetry is doing its next event at the Cultural Center of Cape Cod, and you've heard a little bit of Rich's Hyben. He'll be reading. It's called Poetic Journeys, and Rich will be reading from his collection Head On Hyben Stories. Justin Aaron, who some of you may know, who was Martha's Vineyard Poet Laureate, who has both photography and lyric verse, and it was prompted by his volunteering with A Drop in the Ocean about the Syrian refugee crisis in Greece and in Europe. And Elizabeth Bradfield, whose new book is also Hyben and photography, approaching Antarctica, and it's about, the preciousness of our environment. So there are postcards right near where you came in. Bring cookies and spread the word for us, and please thank Andrew and Debbie and all the people here at the Falmouth Community TV.